You're listening to Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. Small town feel with big time ideas. After all, you are entitled to Brad's opinion. Here's your host, Brad Alllard.
Well, hello everybody. Finally getting some fall weather for a change. This will be our last show in the hub, won't it, Taylor?
That is the plan.
And we're going to be next Monday. I have Greg Cooper on, so he'll be our inaugural guest in the new studio format.
New studio.
Yeah, I like this studio though, but the other one's going to be very nice.
You never know what
he showed me the
in the
pictures.
future.
Yeah, you never know. I have Derek Weathers today from the Cleburne City Council, and we're going to talk about what's going on in our friends to the west here and what's going on with the bond issue and about what issues Cleburne faces and things like that. And we're going to find they're pretty similar to what Burleson faces, I'm quite sure.
Yep.
Every city council. How long have you been with the city council?
4 years now.
And are you going to stay around for a while on it?
Plan to, as long as the people will have me anyway.
Yeah, okay. That's what they all say.
That's what they
all say. Well, but it is your intent to stay on the council at least a little while longer, even though you just told me you're going to have like a full house.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, I got twins on the way, and I have a 5 and a 2-year-old, and so full house, but that's okay. We have a good support system.
Fun Christmas anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
But we're going to talk about particularly the bond issue, the roads issue, because that passed. I didn't see the count, but I did know it was no need for recount.
60-ish%.
Yeah.
I think 60 to 65%.
Yeah, I thought it was, fairly substantial. It wasn't in need for recount, in other words. But I did see that another one that's made a difference is the liquor store election. Are y'all going to be having one of those, you think?
I think Cleburne's a little bit further behind as far as that's concerned, but honestly though, I think if you, since we're on that topic, I think I don't think that the opposition for liquor in Cleburne would be as much. I think that there's a gathering movement of, hey, it may be time here in the future to do that.
Well, one of my sponsors is pretty happy about it, the Wild Scar, because they were basically being extremely limited on what they could serve and what they could buy because you can only buy it from that one place in Alvarado.
Oh, wow.
Do you know about those liquor laws? See,
No,
this is why it'll help Cleburne restaurants as well. I'm going to get to the sponsors in just a minute, but since we're on the topic, in Texas you can only buy it from within the county if you're a restaurant, and the only place you could buy it from was, I know there's a store in Rio Vista, but he didn't do business with the restaurants. It's the only liquor depot in Alvarado. And so all the restaurants in Johnson County, including like I used to, before class, go get something to eat at the Chili's over there. They had to buy their liquor from this guy, and they were all paying retail and no deliveries and that kind of thing. And so it was now that we've passed this bill, at least in the Burleson city limits, we're going to have, I don't know what we're going to have. I mean, I don't know of any plans. I would imagine some of the larger chains are looking at it. But when they finally come into being, my friends at Wild Cigar are going to have 3 or 4 places to choose from to buy, and maybe at cheaper prices. In which, even if you're not, you don't drink with your meal or whatever, or you don't go to have a drink at a bar, it's still going to make our restaurants a bit more profitable, I hope. Yeah. And maybe your meal just a little bit more affordable. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a good thing.
Sure.
But let's just jump into the sponsors. Then we're going to talk about all the things facing Cleburne. First of all, our place. I bet you've been the one in Cleburne, right?
I have. Yeah. Benjamin's a good place.
Yeah, I have not been that one, but I'll go to the one here in town all the time. Yep. All right, and I'm sure the food and the service is just as good because that's what Otto and his brother Benji really promote is service. And when I've always said this about him. When I go to our place, I've been going there for a while now, I see a lot of the same staff there, and you don't see that in a lot of restaurants. And that tells me something about Otto, and I assume Benji as well.
Yeah, you can see service level at our place in Cleburne. Benji runs a great store, and it's a lot of happy employees there.
Yeah, and a lot of those went to Gina's here. Have you ever eaten at Gina's Pizza?
No, I haven't. I keep seeing your advertisements. I want to go see it. Looks good.
Well, I know if you come in and eat at a Burleson restaurant, will they start to, having a recall on you in Cleburne?
No, I don't think so. I hope not anyway.
No, I don't think so. Sometimes it's all good, right? It's all,
sometimes I sneak away into Godly because on Saturday nights.
The Del Norte?
No, Chisholm's has a $26.99 ribeye steak buffet.
I need to check that out there.
Yeah. So I kind of, that's where I go sometimes on Saturdays.
I've been to Del Norte more than once.
Oh, Del Norte is amazing.
Yeah. But Gina's is really, really good. It used to be an old pizza joint here in Burleson. It was here before I was, and I've been here since '88. And Otto bought it out, and he's redone it. And it's great. The pizza's great, but the atmosphere is great. And you get $3 drafts in the afternoon, so you can go watch sports or whatever else. And just a good place to go hang out. And he'll benefit from what we were just talking about, because he doesn't have like a full bar, but he does have to buy beer, and that's still same rules apply. So there you are. So, basically with Thanksgiving, I know that Gina's and our place, I believe, are not going to be open Thanksgiving Day, but you're going to be pretty tired the Friday. I don't want to cook anymore. So go do yourself a favor and go to one of those two places. And do yourself a favor and go to Wild Cigar. Have you ever been in there?
I have not. I've seen it, though. I've seen the
Facebook. They have a great humidor. I don't know if you're a cigar smoker, but you probably know somebody that is.
Yes.
And it's a great place to go buy pretty high-end cigars. I mean, they're not like expensive, but they're not, gas station behind the rack cigars either. I mean, these are, good stuff. And then they have a really nice bar. And then they do a lot of stuff with the college football and even the pros. You see that Cowboy game yesterday?
That was wild. I was had to go to the store. On the way back from the store, had it on the radio, and it was just back and forth, and caught the tail end of it on TV, which was still pretty wild.
I could see Brad and Babe. It must have been going nuts.
Oh, they were beside themselves. It was probably one of the most hilarious exchanges I've heard in radio. It's pretty funny. Those guys are great.
Well, so you could watch it there. And what I like about watching a ball game there, it's not like a sports bar. It's pretty quiet, actually. And so you can talk about the game instead of having to shout and all this other business. So it's a good place to go. Also, thank you to our friends at Southern Gym. My wife works here. You ever taken Mrs. Weathers here?
I've not, but
if she's hearing this,
might have to.
Well, it's a nice jewelry store, and they got high end, and they got more budget minded, if you will. So it's not like everything is expensive. It's they got it for all incomes, and they have a big event coming up a week from Thursday on December 5th. They're going to be from 5 to 8. They're going to be having like a jazz trio and an open bar, and American Revelry is going to have some hors d'oeuvres, and it's just going to be a little party. And Gayla does really good at these things. Gayla Moore is the owner. My wife works here too, so she's getting all geared up for it and whatnot. So it's going to be a real big deal. So December 5th is a very busy day. I mean, there's also a couple other events going on. I know Toys for Tots is going on. I'm going to mention that in a minute. But anyway, Southern Gym is going to be expanding their hours and times beginning next week. So, don't wait to the last minute. Jewelry is not something you buy at the last minute. It isn't like running into Target at, 4 o'clock on the day before Christmas kind of thing.
Oh, that's me totally.
Okay.
I do all the time.
Well,
I'm infamous for it. My wife hates it.
She
hates it.
Basically with my kids, I say, how much money do you want? Because, they don't want toys. They're in their 32 and 29. They says, give me cash, Dad. Okay. And it works for me. Also, thank you to our friends over at Old Pro Roofing at John Williams, 817-734-2756. I saw him last week at my BNI meeting. They do business all over the DFW area. And one thing that we've been stressing is about you need to get your roof inspected, because these insurance companies are becoming more and more particular about what they're going to cover. Yep. And if you have roof damage, here comes a storm, you're going to find out in a hurry that you have damage. And then you have to deal with them. And they'll help you deal with the insurance companies. And John will tell you, not all insurance companies are as cooperative. Now, mine, Texas Farm Bureau, is very cooperative, but the others, which I won't name on the air, they have to go to the mat sometimes. So there you go. Call John Williams at 817-734-2756. Also, Jeff Kelly at Jeff Kelly Realty. I was just talking or texting, I guess. I still call it talking, I suppose, texting. Business is now picking up a little bit. A lot of people are waiting until after the election. I'm not really sure why, but I had 2 or 3 other friends that are in real estate or real estate services, like my friends at Camco, mortgage brokers. They were saying people just were waiting, and I'm like, what are they waiting for?
Regulatory environment.
I guess so.
Yep. That's what it is.
Okay. Yep. Well, anyway, now that's picking up again. So call Jeff at 817-781-0546 or Jeff at jeffkellyrealty.com. He serves all over the county. I know he has properties in Cleburne as well. Cleburne real estate probably is booming too, I would imagine.
It slowed down for a little bit before the election, and now we have a lot of new construction, so we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's starting to move now.
And also, our friends Tiffany Griffin over at Local Life, the cover auto is on the cover of Regina's, so it's everywhere. It goes all over the county. I know it goes from Burleson and Crowley to some degree, Joshua, Godley, and to Cleburne. And it's 30,000 homes plus a lot of businesses. I saw several copies of it. About a week ago, I was getting my wife's oil changed, and I saw copies on the coffee table. So there you go. One last thing, Toys for Tots, a week from Thursday, big deal. You see boxes all over. Jack Matson, he'll be glad to come and pick up whatever you have. I see boxes everywhere. Buy new unwrapped toy, new and unwrapped toy. No used stuff, please. And appropriate for anywhere from like 1 to 12. All right, so a lot of kids, a lot of people say, well, I'm buying for like a 4-year-old. Remember, there's like 10 and 11-year-olds that maybe want a little bit, more age-appropriate toy. And so remember them too. And then on December 5th over at Burleson Stadium, which as old-timers still will call Elk Stadium, thank you. They're going to have a big drive-through. They're going to have Santa there. The Marines will be there. The sports teams from the 2 high schools will help you unload. The performing groups of the high schools will be there. It's going to be a big evening. So go to galas and then go to the Toys for Tots or vice versa. Make it an evening out of it. And then go to Gina's Pizza for a little post-game pizza. Hey, you got to get those sponsors in there somehow. All right. First of all, just a personal question. You've been on there for council for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
What motivated that to get on the council?
It's a long story. It starts with Professor McAvoy, like we were talking about before. So, in short, Professor McAvoy said, hey, I want you to go work for one of the political parties during my federal government class in 2014. And I was in the Army Reserve at the time. I said, hey, I don't feel comfortable with that. So he said, okay, go find something that's more appropriate to it and write a report on it. And so I went to the courthouse where one of the gentlemen that I grew up with in church, he worked, and he was an assistant county auditor. Said, hey, you need to go talk to Rick Bailey at Precinct 1. Shadowed Rick Bailey. That was the time where they were doing the jail expansion, the commissioner's court, and wrote an entire report on that and went from there. So I decided, I made a decision then that I wanted to be more involved in local politics and wanted to make sure, I wasn't one of those people that was sitting on the sidelines, criticizing from the sidelines. I wanted to get in and help where I could, sat back and watched for a few years, and then spoke with my wife in 2018 and said, hey, I'm going to run. And I lost by 5 votes.
Yeah, 5 votes.
Yeah.
That's, to kind of cut in for a minute, that's what I tell my class. They always think their vote doesn't count. And I said, that's rubbish.
Oh, yeah.
Because, okay, maybe one vote that Trump or Harris didn't get might not make a difference in Texas, but these local races,
yes,
it certainly does. Because I've heard this story from various other races about, within single digits or like 15 or whatever.
Yep.
So, yes, your vote counts.
Absolutely. And especially in the local races, because really that's the federal races, the state races, those will affect your lives, but your local races are going to be the ones that affect you more than anything else.
And I'm not paying them to say this, guys. I've been saying this for 5+ years now. I've been saying in my classes, it's the local guys, city councils, county commissioners, school boards. It's going to directly affect the quality of life and your tax rates and whatever else more than Donnie or Kamala would have.
Yep.
Or Kamala. I don't want to say her name improperly. So there you go. Anyway, go ahead.
And that's what motivated me. And I wanted to serve, be of service. I'm U.S. Army veteran. I did a tour in Iraq whenever I was on active duty. And I wanted to find a way to continue serving the community. And that was the way that I decided. And lost by 5 votes for that election. And as soon as I lost, I said, hey, I'm going to run again in 2020. Was appointed to the Planning and Zoning Commission, chaired that for a couple of years. And then 2020 came around. I didn't have an opponent, and I haven't had an opponent since.
You scared them off.
I didn't scare them off. Okay. I would hope that I would, doing good enough job where nobody felt the need to step up.
We have heard about the Weathers machine over here.
Oh, yeah.
Tammany Hall over in Cleburne.
That's what they call it whenever I'm running around with my 5-year-old in my front yard, trying not to throw him over the fence.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I have Victoria Johnson on quite often. I've had the mayor on many times. I've had Dan McClendon on about 4 or 5 times, and Adam Russell, all these others. I'm not just name dropping. I mean, but one of the things is I really enjoy talking with them because, people confuse politics with governing. Politics is, I don't know, entertainment, flamboyant, whatever. Governing is boring. And I asked Victoria, what is the number one thing she hears about? And she says 3/4 of the times about streets.
Yep.
Is that the same for you?
Water.
So
let's bundle that all up into infrastructure.
Infrastructure, okay.
So infrastructure is the main thing. So with the way that Cleburne's growing right now we have about 10,000 lots of some sort, whether it be single family or multifamily, that have been platted. So we just had our biggest year as far as single family permits that we've issued in a year. So water's a big topic, and we've set ourselves up quite well. So we have Lake Pat Cleburne, which is one of our water supply, and then we have Lake Aquila, and then we have about 9,700 acre feet of rights to Lake Whitney as well. So we just signed a memorandum of understanding with JSUD as far as looking at opportunities to acquire water.
JSUD is
Johnson County Special Utility District,
right? But see, most of us out in the county here get from Bethesda.
Oh,
yeah,
yep.
We don't. I don't know how many residents around this region get it from JSUD. Almost all of the non-citizen or residents of Burleson City itself.
Yep.
Get it like I do. Get it from Bethesda, and it's a different deal.
Yeah.
So
JSUD has. I think JSUD's the largest water provider in the county, and then City of Cleburne would be the second as far as just providing, organic water, which whenever you say organic, I mean that we own to our citizens. So, infrastructure is the biggest thing that we hear about. So, which is good. That's probably what it should be.
Well, you said 10,000 homes have been platted and all that.
Lots.
Okay.
Yep.
Why is Cleburne growing? I know why Burleson's growing, but why is Cleburne growing?
Well, it would be the tollway. So the tollways come in. We've been intentional about managing the growth. So you don't want to just outgrow your infrastructure. You want to make sure that you manage the growth that, to be clear, we know is coming. Like, hey, we have to manage this. We know it's coming. We have to be intentional about it. And the one message that we try to maintain is we're not trying to be like any other city in the state. We want to be Cleburne, and we want to grow the way that Cleburne wants to grow. And you do that by managing the growth, managing it right. And to spread, property tax is a big deal. We have the second lowest property tax rate in the county, but you could still spread that out. And then you do that by managing the growth with your single family homes and your residential, but also you bring industry in and accelerate sales tax as well.
Well, I know that also sales tax and property tax also is a very common topic when I talk to city leaders, and I know how reluctant they were to have to kind of add a couple of cents on to the property tax, but it was inevitable because the Burleson roads, they're being used more than what was projected.
Oh, yeah.
And the wear is accumulating faster than what was projected. Hidden Creek, they thought would last a lot longer than it has. And so there's several spots on it. And, and also Renfro and also, Allsbury and all that. And so it's just a growing pains. And to me, I'd rather have this problem than the problem of a declining community.
Correct.
And not. I always thought also probably why Cleburne was growing is because the homes are probably still affordable, and with the tollway, you could still get to your job.
Yep.
But one of the things we had to have happen is we got to do something about 174. Now, I know it's a state road and all this other business, but hopefully this bond will be able to begin the process of creating alternative routes.
Yes.
The day that's the worst is Saturday. When I went to the store about 2 weeks ago on a Saturday afternoon, I saw the traffic coming in from Joshua and Cleburne.
Literally backed up all the way
past the light was at 174 and John Jones, and it was past the other light near Hewlin.
Yeah.
It's like 3 lights before you get through.
Correct.
And so we had to have something. So what is this bond going to do for us in this case? Because I know it's passed and we're all good. What's it going to do for us?
So it's going to turn TxDOT's attention to us, which is what we need. So TxDOT doesn't move at a very fast pace unless
I heard that.
Unless they have what they call shovel-ready projects. And the county said, hey, if we're going to grow, once again, county judge came from Cleburne. He's of the same mindset that we have to manage the growth that we know is coming. And you do that by having shovel-ready projects in case there's other money that either gets paused or they have to shift resources, that we have these shovel-ready projects that are ready to be built, and we can take those TxDOT resources. And, there are a lot of people, I've seen some of the people that oppose it saying, well, TxDOT should take care of that. Well, that's correct, but that's how it should be, not how it is. Right. And how it is it takes them 30 to 40 years to get on a time horizon to do engineering, to do projects that they don't see. Did
you say 30 to 40?
Yeah, 30 to 40 years. So the loop that was talked about, basically the loop that was talked about from 67 around Cleburne, we weren't even on a time horizon to do that. And we know that needs to be done in the next 10 to 15. And TxDOT had it maybe 50 years from now.
Holy moly.
Yeah. So
boy, that's optimistic that we'll still be around in 50 years.
And that's what I mean is it's very easy to, hear that and say, well, not my problem, but we owe it to the next generation to have them prepared for the growth that we know is coming. We can't just sit on our hands and not manage what we know is coming.
Well, that's true. And, what this $60 million bond is almost, I think of it as an investment, because once this prep work is done, the studies, the engineering, there'll be some movement of dirt.
Right-of-way acquisition, things like that.
Once that's done, then you get on the list.
Yes.
And Victoria Johnson told me that, and Chris Fletcher told me, is the model for them was Parker County. And he told me Hunt County as well. They got on board quickly, and so they're now at the top of the list.
It's not just a list. I mean, it's Hunt County, evidently. They turned $45-ish million into about a $400 million investment by TxDOT so far.
And that's what they said probably would happen with us here, because in Parker County, they started out with like around $40-50 million bond, and now they've gotten like $280 million, and that's just the first hit. Yes. And there'll be others involved. It's almost like it grows upon itself.
It does.
Once these roads start coming in, and you're on the list, and you're on a relationship with TxDOT, you're going to be able to have repeat business, so to speak.
Well, it's just like any other business, right? You keep their attention, you maintain their resources here. It's a lot easier to have continuous shovel-ready projects ready to invest here, keep their resources here, keep those people here in order to build the road. So that's what I'm hoping will happen.
One of the things that I saw in opposition to it was, well, they need to fix this road or that road, like 714 here in Burleson.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. And so, well, that's not how this would work. A lot of this is going to prepare access, but it will also provide money to make the need to use 714 maybe a little less, or 174 a little less, because that's the real problem. Is that here in Burleson anyway, a lot of people are taking alternative routes because it just
the traffic backs up.
The Wilshire is just a beating, and so they'll go these alternative ways, and it's no secret anymore. If you want to get to one side of town, the other take 714, or you get on Alsbury and go all the way to the end and hit Hewlin and that kind of thing. But but you can't do that forever.
Yep.
And so I'm really glad that this passed. And the thing is, I said, well, I'm not going to be around to see it. Well, so what? I have children they don't live here, but they may. And, we do have responsibility to the younger generation.
I have to empathize with and sympathize with people that say that. I completely understand. They're going to see, that little bit of a property tax bump is already another little bump on top of a bunch of other little bumps that they've had, but completely understand their position. Completely understand it. But we owe it to the next generation to make sure this happens.
I figured out how much my tax is going to go up because of this bond. It's going to be about $40 a year, rather.
$40 a year. Yep.
$40 a year.
Yep.
Would I pay $40 for better roads every day and twice on Sunday?
Yep.
Now, even if I don't see them, I'm an old man. Who knows? And these things take forever. they're still building the Appian Way in the Roman Empire, because it's still, it takes forever to build these roads. But,
yes.
I always kind of joke, I wonder if I'm going to live long enough to see a certain project done, like those projects they were doing over the mid-cities with all those bridges. And there's another one on 287 and 20 that's like, will I live to see this one day? I don't know. But it doesn't matter.
Yes.
As far as, individual roads getting repaired, another misunderstanding was they would say, well, if this bond passes, will they fix that road on Renfro? That's a city responsibility, not a county responsibility. You probably have the same thing. You have to kind of tell people.
It's just an education. Hey, this is the delegation responsibility. But the answer is they're going to fix that too. But that's completely separate pot of money too. And it's that delegation of responsibility. Even Burleson, Cleburne's a little bit different. We have about 34,000 people now. Burleson's what, 55?
Roughly, yeah.
55. So you've taken over basic responsibility of most of the TxDOT roads. So Cleburne's not there yet. So we wholly rely on TxDOT for Main Street and 67. So which would be 174 and 67.
Right.
Which there's some things they could do better. So, but we're working on that. It's part of maintaining a relationship with them and being intentional about staying in touch with them, making sure that we're going to be on the project schedule. And one of the things that really I admire about Burleson is they've been intentional about making sure they're involved in the North Texas Council of Governments and these others. And, Victoria Johnson, I think she's a secretary, if I remember right.
She'll be the president next year.
She'll be the president of the COG next year.
I don't think she's secretary. I think she's vice president.
Vice president now? Yeah. So these are things that, some of, my fellow councilmen have talked about is, hey, we also, Cleburne, need to start being more involved in the COG talks and all these other regional, regional groups, including, talked about it earlier, but water. So if you, I don't know if you've ever been down the water rabbit hole before, but it's a rabbit hole.
Not really for us as such, because we get ours from Fort Worth here in Cleburne. And I'm sorry when I say here in Burleson. You get me confused here. Getting in Burleson, and then, or if you live out in the county, like I said, we get it from Bethesda. So I don't hear a lot about it. The only time I hear my council friends talk about the water issue is decisions made by Fort Worth affect us here.
Correct.
And there's really not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
They raise the rates, and there's not much we can do about it.
And well, with water, you have the water planning rabbit hole goes deep. So you have the Texas Water Development Board. Then you have, I think it's 26 regional planning groups that are responsible for that. And some of the main ones are Region C, which is your Trinity, which is Fort Worth, Arlington, some of the biggest water providers. And then for Cleburne, it's Region G, which is the water planning group for basically the Brazos River Authority. So what makes Cleburne unique is we sit at the basically the intersection of two different water basins. So if there's an opportunity in the future to draw from the Trinity, then that's something we'd love to be able to explore. And then right now most of our water comes from the Brazos River. So either Lake Cleburne sits on the Nolan River, which is a tributary of the Brazos River. So while it's not a BRA lake or it's not BRA responsibility.
A BRA?
Brazos River Authority.
Okay,
so
Brazos,
sorry.
All right.
Yeah, Brazos River Authority. It rolls into Lake Whitney, which is. So we have to constantly work together with Brazos River Authority to.
That's another thing that a lot of people don't understand, that any community that thinks they're going to do these things by themselves
it can't.
It can't be done. I mean, it's got to take a lot of community relationships and building. I know Mr. Fletcher has developed a relationship with your mayor, Scott Kane, and a couple of others. Close working relationships, because one thing he's learned just how important that cooperation is. He can't, Burleson can't go it alone. Cleburne can't go it alone. This county can't go it alone, really. But I think I understand. Back to the bond issues. People say, well, say the word bond, they just are intent to go is a lot of red flags. But
as it should.
Well,
you should research it,
right?
Yeah.
And but I'm not as opposed to bonds as such, because if I know what they're used for and I know what the need is, and I guess sitting in this seat, I get to have an insight as to what this money's going to be used for that a lot of people don't get.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not as allergic to bonds as some others, because I know that the alternative is either we have almost immobile traffic in our community in about 5 years, or we're not going to get mass transit because that's way too expensive now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opposition to it.
Yeah. And eminent domain, you can't, it would just be untenable for a lot of people.
I know about a decade ago they were talking about having an extension of the TRE all the way down to Cleburne and stopping Joshua, Burleson, Crowley, Everman, whatever. That went by the wayside. A lot of it was because of the extreme expense of it.
Yep.
A lot of people think it'll save money, it's good for the environment. Well, okay, but
it'll save some money, but with the way that the Metroplex is laid out, it's going to cost billions. To get it with a B, to get it to Cleburne and to do it the right way. And one of the biggest obstacles you're going to have is right of way acquisition for that. And if anybody knows me, I do not like using eminent domain at all, whatsoever.
And neither does our city council. I mentioned that to Mr. Fletcher one time, not as a suggestion, but is that a possibility? And he acted like I was asking him to turn communist or something. He was no, thank
I'd
you.
Probably look at you the same way because
I don't know. Thank you.
We're not touching that.
No, so out there, folks, listening to this, there's no plans now entering the future for that. So don't get all worked up. But I mean, just Mr. Fletcher acted like I, insulted him almost.
Oh, Well, you don't want that to. It's one of those things. If people start hearing, they support that. Well, the second and third order effects are, well, you support this, this, and this. I'm like, no, that's not what I said. So,
well, I bet you've learned that in your 4 years plus in office.
Yeah.
Particularly with social media, that's been a repeated conversation point in the last 3 or 4 years when I talk politics with the local guys. It's like they are constantly having to swat down rumors on Facebook.
You just Facebook. So on that topic, I like Facebook as a medium. It brings us together more than it ever has before. But at the same time, there's a lot of rumors and general comments that are just not correct.
Do you have like a group like we do here that have their own page, and that's where all these some of the things spool up?
Oh yeah, and I'm very intentional about being in those groups. And if there's something that pops up, I will address it. The good example is Amazon. So we were just they just broke ground on a new 1.7 million square foot Amazon fulfillment warehouse in Cleburne.
Where is that going to be?
It's going to be at the corner of 67 and the tollway. So right there at the right perfectly. It's basically a perfect spot.
Oh, sure it is. Right across from the baseball stadium.
Yes, and that's going to be a catalyst for a lot of growth on that 67 corridor.
How many jobs is that?
Oh yeah, they said 800 to 1,000 to start,
and that's not just in Cleveland. That's all over the county.
It's going to be. I compared it to when the Santa Fe rail yards came to Cleburne. It is that big of a catalyst for
it's
us.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It helps your schools.
Well, the biggest thing.
Wow.
They were moving with intentionally and with speed. So they didn't want any kind of incentives, any kind of abatements or anything like that. So, thanks to Amazon, that resets our baseline as far as what we offer as a city as well.
So you didn't have to have any inducements to get them there. Wow, that's like a dream come true, isn't it, for a city?
It was. So with me in my background, I was a little skeptical. So I was like, "What's the catch?"
Right.
And so kept. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. Amazon did, and it was basically the only catch was. And this is all public record, so you can see it.
All right.
So we had to annex a property in before everything was platted. So it was basically like, hey, trust us to move through the process, and can you help us facilitate the process and get us through it? So really the only thing that you would lose out on is property tax revenue. So we didn't have it before, and if we had to disannex, that would be maybe an issue, but I didn't really see it that way. We've already master planned that out. We would like to see, that industry and things like that out to the west there anyway. And they just said, hey, we just need this zoned in industrial, and that's what we did. Annexed it in and went from there.
But going back to our original point is, boy, is that going to add to traffic though? All those workers going in there, all those trucks going out.
It just makes the need even more pronounced for east-west corridor.
I'm just looking at my in my head, I'm thinking, I know exactly what you're talking about. It still is going to put a lot of pressure on 67 and on 174.
It will. The good news is that, kind of unlike TxDOT, they identified that bridge there as needing expansion, and NTTA is already working on expanding 4 lanes from 1187 to 67. So the bridge will be 4 lanes all the way to Nolan River, which is really good because right now it's just there's a lot of choke points right now. So it's the mobility is being worked on. It is going to put pressure on, but I think that the overall risk reward there is a lot. There's a lot more reward than risk as far as that's concerned.
I mean, you can't say, "Oh, it'll make our traffic." I can't even imagine what it's going to do for a lot of the Cleburne businesses. So I know, I'm sure y'all have paid some attention to what's going on to Old Town over here.
Yes, we have,
and y'all probably want to replicate that. I know you're trying.
We are trying
with the square and all that.
We are intentional about our downtown. We have challenges. I mean, you have 2 state highways that go through there. Those are the challenges. But so far,
wouldn't that increase traffic, though?
It does. But what that also does is make it really hard to move around parking, things like that, and reroute truck traffic. So that's why this bond is even more important. Is because if we can get truck traffic away from downtown Cleburne, that means that we'll be able to use it more for residential things like that.
Are my friends at Loaf and Dog still operating?
Oh yeah, I had so Casey was doing some work out at Eden Green where I work at. Had him do some cleanup, and Loaf and Dog's actually out of the right building right now. So
okay, I've been there before, and that 1949 Burger Bar is still there.
Oh, I love same thing.
Yeah, so but see, I don't get there like I said very often, but I've done it before, and of course everybody goes there for county business and whatnot, and for gig court duty and all that other business. So, so I know that y'all want to try to replicate that. I know it's because for a long time, Old Town there wasn't anything here. There was like Bailey's, one main place. There was a barbecue place at the Odom's, which I really liked, and on and on and on. But now it's become a destination point.
Yes.
They're getting business from outside, just the immediate Burleson area. They're getting people from, all around the county and in southern Tarrant County coming down. And it does build on itself. It's like you get momentum. And once you got 1 or 2 or 3, then you'll get 4 or 5 or 6 coming in pretty quickly after that.
Yep.
But y'all do have one advantage being the county seat.
Yes.
And you have the square and you have the buildings there for it and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So I don't see why you can't do what we've done or what Granbury has done.
Yes.
Or if you ever been to McKinney.
I've seen, they've done a lot up there.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Well, see, I'm from Collin County. When I was a kid back in the 70s, no one went to McKinney except to get your driver's license or, court or whatever county business you had.
Yeah.
I mean, you just didn't go there. And now they take like 4 or 5, 6 city blocks of pretty nice stuff going on, and decent bars and restaurants and shops and boutiques and whatnot. I mean, I go there to visit my buddy who lives over there about once a month, but 6 weeks, and it's like, man, this isn't anything like we grew up with.
Yeah, 10 years ago, it was Lawyer Square basically for downtown Cleburne, and now we have Soulfire Brewing and some apartments downtown now, and a few other coffee shops, various other boutique shops, and still growing. I mean, there's still a lot of interest in everything. Really excited.
Does Cleburne give like some sort of inducement or incentive?
Yeah. We have 2. So we have 2 incentives right now. So we have a facade improvement program, which is like a $5,000 up to $5,000 match, and then a downtown building improvement program. So if you're doing a renovation project, we'll match up to 50%, up to $10,000, I believe, or $20,000. So basically set aside $40,000 for the facade improvement grant and $50,000 for the building improvement.
See, I don't know exactly what inducements we have dollar-wise or whatnot, but I do know that there are incentives to build around Old Town.
Yeah.
And boy, it's made a difference. I mean, another popular destination. I'm giving out free shout-outs here is at Station 330.
Yeah.
That's a big, has been very busy. That lumber yard used to be the Moon Tower Pizza, which I still miss. But actually, it's coming to Moon Tower is coming to Cleburne, not Cleburne. Dadgummit, get my towns right. Crowley It's going to be right by catty corner from where our studio is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, those are the kind of things that, I started teaching in 88 here and moved here in 91. And now, so I can consider myself an old timer. And I could tell you, there was nothing like this at all. Yeah. And, when they started building out on the highway in the late 90s, Chili's and on the border and all that, I think that was a catalyst to get off our butts and do something.
Yep.
And boy, it's a town now there that you really don't even need to go to Fort Worth for Christmas shopping. We got all you need here. Alex Phillips, if he hears this, he's probably, he'll catch it sometime. He'll tell you that the more you shop locally, the more it generates prosperity for your town. And you probably say the same thing.
Yeah. And whenever I say we, the council has been intentional in figuring out ways to accelerate sales tax revenue because that'll provide relief to the property tax owners, but also it gives us flexibility for a lot of the needs that we have. Public safety is a big one right now. We have to compete with all the other departments around here, and it's just upward pressure for everything basically. And sales tax revenue would allow us to be a little bit more flexible whenever it comes to those things.
It's amazing because I'm sitting here talking to you about Cleburne, but this is so familiar to me now. Because the same things that face our people here in Burleson, y'all are dealing with.
Everybody's dealing with the same problem.
Yeah.
Yep. It's public safety, infrastructure, economic development, making sure that you provide relevant services like parks, things like that. We just invested $20 million in park bonds out of our 4B Sales Tax Corporation into our park. So Lakeshore, which is right by Lake Cleburne, we're putting about $10 million into that. And then right across the lake, across 67, we're going to put about $7 million into Buddy Stewart, including a dog park, which, Cleburne doesn't have. And also that includes a skate park at Hewland Park, which has been a huge, a lot of kids have said, hey, we would like to see this. So we're moving forward intentionally and it all starts with planning, right? You have to have a master plan. So finished our master plan, immediately moved into, okay, how do we execute on this? And we've executed on it so far, and we'll probably be building for the next 10 years off of that.
Well, one thing I'm always hammering on, if you will, with my city government people is we need in Burleson what you have, which is an event center.
Yeah.
And we've had one on the books for, or at least plans for a long time, but we haven't made any progress towards it because the more immediate problems and facing, it's not that we don't want it or we're being apathetic. It's hardly that. It's just that
resource allocation.
Yes, you said, okay, we'd like to do this, but we have all these street issues we need to repair and take care of. But we have to hire more police. But on and on and on. So it always gets kicked down the roster a little bit, down the agenda. But we really could use one because I've been in that center several times, and it's a very nice facility. And then you probably generate some money out of that, don't you?
Yep.
For smaller conventions. Yeah, I know. I've been to a theater performance there. On and on.
Yep, and our Carnegie players, they're the ones that operate out of the Dick Helmkamp Theater. That's who it's named after. Previous, he's deceased now, but he was a Cleburne ISD band director, I believe. So, and numerous conventions, a lot of fundraisers. We do a lot of fundraisers, and I've always said Cleburne has a big heart, and you could see. I think the Children's Advocacy Center just had their boots and badges event.
I've had them on 3 or 4 times over the years.
Yes.
With Tammy King.
Yes.
And it's, so I know exactly what you're talking about. That's another thing, because sometimes, here in Burleson, we got a lot of active nonprofits.
Yes.
And I would assume Cleburne does as well.
We do. Yeah, Meals on Wheels, Children's Advocacy Center, Christmas in Action. Those are just to name a few. And if I left any, Shine Together is one that's they're really growing as well. And these are people with big hearts, but the need, there's a big need right now. Do
you have something similar to our Harvest House?
That would be, would be the Johnson County Food Bank, which is the Bread Connection. So it's similar to Harvest House, but so I'm on the board of the Johnson County Food Bank, and we just bought some property off of a 67, and we're going to expand that into, vocational services, things like that, to help people get back on their feet, and of course, food donations, stuff like that.
Well, I have as routine guests, Harvest House also groups your Promises community, which is part of First Baptist Church, and also Crowley House of Hope, which, by the way, another plug, a week from Thursday, I'll have them on.
Excellent.
And they're literally within walking distance of the studio. And so I have Elizabeth Becker on. And they all tell me the same thing. You know, we're not just growing in terms of our city, but also growing in terms of our need.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes. I mean, yes, the need is growing. And it gets sometimes to be a kind of close run thing. I've gone into Promises before and to Harvest House. And sometimes the shelves they're fairly well stocked. And then you come back 2 days later and it's almost wiped out.
Yeah.
They'll tell you that, we'll start out maybe Monday looking pretty good, and by Tuesday afternoon, we have
wiped out.
Yeah, totally wiped out.
Yeah. One of our pastors, Bethel Temple, and Pastor Mike Mazzell, they do a weekly food giveaway, and they have cars almost out onto Henderson, which is Business 67. That's about a mile of cars just waiting for food, and it just. There is definitely a need, but there's also a need for cooperation and working together, making sure that people get to the right resources. That's one thing I've seen is there's not a lot of people that know where to go or where to start. And if everybody worked together, understood, hey, go here for this, go to this nonprofit for that, I think it'd really help everybody.
Well, in the last 3 or 4 years, the nonprofits have been much more coordinated with each other, and they have personal relationships with each other, which helps. And so if somebody comes to Promises and they're not in a position to help, like it's a housing issue or something like that, they know to go to Crazy Eights and Lisa Schwartz. Maybe she might be able to either help them or send them to the right place. Same thing with like resale shops. We got that. We have one of the best groups we have here is the Center for Autism. We have, you don't see that as much, but the thing is, a lot of people, I think, are somewhat now just becoming aware, but have been unaware for a long time. Things may be prosperous for a lot of people here in Burleson area and Cleburne too, but there's a lot of people that are falling between the cracks too.
Yes.
And so I feel blessed to live in a community that I have this many people, all these people that are willing to work at these kind of nonprofits and service organizations. One like our Next Step Women's Center I had on last week, and they do wonderful work, and on and on and on. I sometimes I think we forget the fact about there's a reason why they're so busy. I guess the best way to put it.
And Cleburne's starting to see that as well. Whenever you say people, they've fallen through the cracks, that maybe just fell in hard times. Sometimes it could just be a vehicle broke down, and then that starts a cascade reaction. One of the things that I've seen is a very intentional approach to some of our, some of the homeless issues that we have. There's people that, for whatever reason, they can't afford to stay in their home, and property taxes is one of those things as well. But people will leave, they'll be living in their car. So one of the second and third order effects of that is you have a homeless population if they're living in their car. Well, our hotels are full. We have a lot of people living in a hotel, but those aren't visitors. They're just people living in a hotel. So that means that's less revenue coming in from outside too. So there's an incentive on everyone's parts to help and figure out, hey, how do we get everybody back on their feet to where they can go rent a place and they can get somewhere where they can be at.
And one of the things I've learned on this show is that when people say the word homeless, they get these visions of people living under the bridge, like at Lancaster and 30. And
that's not always the case.
It's they'll tell me what Debbie Beeman, what Jennifer Woods, Elizabeth Becker told me, that the homeless more often than not are either couch surfing, as they call it, or they're living out of the car. And a lot of times these aren't indigent people that are unemployable. They may even have jobs. But they're not getting enough money.
The cost of living is just so much right now.
They may be working at a store or a grocery store or whatever else, and they have 2 kids, and just it isn't enough money. And then, like you said, they're one semi-disaster away from being really in trouble with a car breakdown or
one flat tire.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't have to talk about how expensive those are.
Exactly. I mean, it's
expensive. I went and priced new tires. I'm like,
$200 a piece.
I don't want 8. I just want 4.
Yeah. Exactly. I did that for my wife's car.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. So, But it's like, I think, because in Burleson, we don't have like encampments and things like that. At least, well, they tell me we do have a couple, but they're out of sight.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee. So Cleburne has the same thing. We don't have insight like where you can see them, but for example, in the water right of ways or things like that, where there's a lot of thick brush, or in the back of someone's property, there will be encampments.
Well, what I'm hearing is over by Chisholm Hall, rather, the baseball fields.
Yeah,
that backs up to some woods, and sometimes they'll find tents and stuff there, or people hanging out. There's other places I've heard in town, kind of like behind big stores. They kind of find
laundromats, things like that.
Well, and I would think in Cleburne it might be even a bit worse, but being the county seat, that's where a lot of your government services are provided, and so people probably go there. And being the county seat has its advantages, but it's also a magnet for certain things, I would imagine. And so here we go with Thanksgiving, right?
Yes,
3 days. We're going to eat ourselves into a food coma and all this other business and watch Cowboys. Well, maybe they won't blow it. I don't know. They're playing the Giants. It's barely an NFL team.
They didn't blow it yesterday. So.
Yeah. So, but we also need to remember that, and make sure that our food pantries are as well stocked as possible.
If you have the resources to help with it, whether it be the churches or any of the nonprofits, or even volunteer your time to go feed, there's a lot of people putting on Thanksgiving meals, things like that. So go. If you can get out, go ahead and get out and help. And if you can't get out, then, if you have the resources, then please donate, because all these nonprofits, they need help. They need, resources. And it's that simple. We got to help them.
Well, and then you have Christmas right on top of it.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm going to put one more plug in for Toys for Tots, because as a parent, I can't imagine how I would feel if I could not have provided for my children a Christmas. But the Lord blessed me very much throughout my life that I was able to do that for both my kids as they were growing up. But, a lot of people, are going to be struggling. We're going to have Christmas for a kid, and we're going to pay the electric bill.
Yep.
And so that's why Toys for Tots and others like it. There's all sorts of things you can do to donate, and, not money. You think about money. People like to give canned food or, meat to whatever these places. That's great. Or they'll take used stuff for resale. That's great. But a lot of times these people come in and they just need like, $150 so they can get their car out of the shop.
Yep.
And Jennifer tells me, and Debbie Beeman tells me, that sometimes those accounts are pretty low and they have to turn people down.
Yep. And
so, maybe for Christmas you can give yourself a gift and find you a place to donate.
It's disheartening to know there are a lot of people out there that are just, one car emergency or one medical emergency away from being in a really bad situation. So if you can donate, absolutely, please do that.
Well, you want to do this again sometime?
Absolutely.
I think so. I know I enjoy hearing, not so much hearing your problems, but hearing that, you face the same things that we
solutions.
do.
Well, we're about solutions. There's a lot of problems, but if you don't have a plan to grow and a plan to actually solve the problems, and all it is just screaming into the ether. Yeah. So we gotta solve it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming by.
Absolutely.
I hope y'all out there in the vast listening audience share this with your friends, because it'd be nice not just for me, but it's also good for the people in this area of the county to understand the bigger picture, so to speak, what's going on not just with our neighbors but also with the county as a whole. So thank you, Mr. Weathers, for what you do for your community and what you do for our county. And Taylor, thank you for making this all work while you're doing the doing the new studio setup. And we'll see you next Monday, the new studio with Greg Cooper. And then on Tuesday, I have Michelle Humphrey and a friend. I'm not sure of her name, so I won't guess. But they're going to talk about health issues coming up in the holiday season. And then on Thursday, we'll have Elizabeth Becker in the house, a Hope over in Crowley. So y'all have a good Thanksgiving. And remember what Derek and I were talking about. Take time out in the next few days to remember your community. And we'll see y'all next week.